What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we return with Doug of King's X. So great to be able to talk with you again. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. So, Three Sides of One, the first new King's X album in 14 years. I was just listening to it. Definitely 100% worth the wait. Thank you so much for giving us new
Uh,
music.
you're welcome.
For people who haven't heard this album yet, do you feel like the first singles that we released off of this album, Let It Rain and Give It Up, is maybe a good representation of what this whole album will sound like, or is that just the tip of
No,
the iceberg?
no, I don't think so. Not at all. It's. I think people are going to be surprised, hopefully, when they hear it, because a lot of we go around the world, put it that way, in the King's X little world. It's a little bit of everything in there
Awesome.
from our little archive of creativity.
Hell yeah. And as somebody who's been listening to you since I was a baby, I could tell you that there's definitely a big archive of creativity in there.
Then yeah, you'll get it
Yeah.
then.
Well, and that kind of led me into this question because whenever King's X has always made a new album, if you played me 30 seconds of a song, I could tell that that's off of Out of the Silent Planet or that's off of Gretchen Goes to
hmm
Nebraska, etc. Do you always start the songwriting off with a preconceived idea, or is there a lot of improvising involved and a lot of
No,
experiments?
we write songs and bring them in, and we pick and choose which ones we want to do, and then we'll do them. We might change them a little bit or keep them just pretty close to the demo that whoever wrote the song. But that's how we do it. And when I write by myself, I make up the music first, then the music or the melody and the words come later. Even when King's X writes together, the melodies and the words always come later. We just, I don't know, those are the last things we think of. And I think it's, for me personally, it's what I spend the most time on is lyrics and melodies because it's like, that's something you got to spend a lot of time with. Writing tunes just musically, it's a lot of fun, but it's what you put on top of it that makes a difference.
100%. And being also a bass player, in addition to lyrics and melody, though, I'd imagine you also have to focus a lot on rhythm too, right?
Yeah, I don't think about it. I'm a bass player and I go in to play bass, be what I am, and whatever I got to sing over it, I'm the singer, so I work it out.
Every time we hear melody, I hear a lot of emotion within the songs. Like when you compare like Cigarettes to Summerland and so on. Is the melody that we hear representative of an emotion that you were feeling at that particular time, or is it kind of like a combination of everybody in King's X's emotions?
um, as a singer, I don't know what anybody else feels or thinks, but singing with a heart is something that you learn like you learn anything, certain words you sing a certain way because you know that's going to affect a person metaphysically, I guess, in a certain way. I mean, growing up in the gospel church and hearing people in the way they would hit a note or take a word and make it their own and to see the crowd react, you just kind of learn. I mean, that's soul music is we just learn, if you're singing about pain and you somehow can emulate that, then you learn how to emulate it so that when you feel it, you can emulate it to someone else. Does that make sense?
100%.
So when I'm singing, I'm never thinking about the emotion of it because if I think about the emotion, I can't sing. I'll break down and start crying. I lose complete control and I can't even do it. So I have to put the emotions up in the back of my mind and then take the words and emulate what I feel, even though I can't get there right now because it would screw up the flow. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
100%. And it's funny you say that too because as someone I've interviewed so many singers and they say that they need those emotions when they're performing or they're in the vocal booth and that but it almost seems like when you're approaching the melody from
I
a
don't.
technical level, you need to kind of put that on the back burner.
Right, right. I never sing emotionally. I emulate emotion very well, I believe. And it seems that people seem to react that way. but when I'm singing it, I know what I'm doing. You know, I can turn it on and turn it off. I think I've seen other singers do the same. You know, you sing and all of a sudden you go, oh, I gotta sing with a little feeling here. And all of a sudden you just zoop, you hone in, and all of a sudden there's that thing that's happening, and you're a part of the music that you're making with other people. That's why I see
Definitely. And being that King's X, because to
it.
me, the ultimate sound of King's X is the harmonizing of all three of you guys, the way that you harmonize together. So, do both of you, does Ty also have to emulate that strategy or that method as well to kind of make the song fit
You know,
together?
I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how they do it. And they've always been adamant that they speak for themselves, always, to the point where they've yelled at me, "Don't speak for me," you know. So I won't. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what they're thinking. But it seems to work with the three of us. But you know, here's the thing about the three-part harmony. People act like it's. I mean, people want to say this is unique and it sounds unique, but the deal is, if you put two or three or four voices together, they are going to sound unique. It doesn't matter. It's gonna have its own sound. You got Queen, you got Crosby, Stills and Nash. You got, you know, you can go down the list. Three Dog Night, the Guess Who. You know, you hear those individual voices blended together, and as soon as you hear that chord, as soon as you hear those voices, go, oh, I know who that is. You know, and lucky enough, I mean, King's X has that quality. I guess we have. You know, we are unique enough to stand out like all those other bands that have stood out, you know.
Definitely. And I've also noticed that whenever, as somebody who's seen King's X live on multiple occasions, you have a very diverse fan base too. I see rock fans there, metal fans there. I've seen, I remember the first King's X show, the first three band shirts I saw, one of them was like a Rolling Stone shirt, and then the other one was a Cannibal Corpse shirt. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Yes, yes, yes. They get something that is beyond genre and classification. I don't know what it is, but they got it. And it seems like that's the thread that comes out of King's X, and that might be why musicians love us so much. Is there something we create that they're attracted to? I don't know what it is.
I think it's realness, and
Uh,
that's definitely something that people want to seek in their music. But when you are writing the music, as you mentioned, you don't write on an emotional level, but there has to be inspiration
mhm.
that goes into it. But when you're working on a song for a relatively long time, do you find it harder to kind of maintain the initial inspiration that inspired it if you're working on it for an extended period of time?
Even in songwriting, there was never an initial, you know, it's you just come up with something and you finish it. It's sort of like you throw paint on the canvas and you make sense of it as you start putting colors on it. That's how we write, and you know, as a band anyway, and I write the same way. You know, I do like to start out with drums or some kind of beat, you know. So what do I feel like today? Do I feel sad? I feel like dancing? Do I feel, you know, I feel like, you know, drudging through or whatever, and I'll come up with some kind of a beat when it comes to that. Like I want something punk, make it real fast, or you know, or laid back, real slow, you know, sludge rock or something. That'll be in the back of my mind when it comes to drums. But when I'm writing, but when King's X gets together, it's sort of like one of us will come up with a riff and everybody will fall in, and we'll go, okay, we can make this into something. You know, it's all about piecing it all together, and then when you're done, you look at it, and that's when it makes sense. And that's when you think if it's any good or not either. Should you present it to the world, or should you go back and work on it some more, or should you just can it? You know, there's so many things that goes into it. But the conversation, there's very little conversation. You sort of, it's just instinct.
Of course. And when it comes to playing live too, because I could just tell that all three of you go into a zone when you play live. It's not just a concert, I feel, a King's X show. It's really an overall experience that enhances all the senses. But is there a similar energy that goes into your live performance as you do when you are songwriting, or do you consider playing live and songwriting two completely separate arts altogether?
It might be the same things as far as I'm concerned. The only difference for me is I'm in front of people playing, which makes me hone in on to that and the reaction of the people. In the studio, there's no audience, so you're in your head and you're thinking about notes and timing and did I do that right or whatever. But live, it's sort of like that's thrown out the window. It's survival. You hit that note or you're off, and that's it. And I love that kind of pressure because it makes you you're in the moment. You have to be. You can't be anywhere else. In the studio, you're never in. Well, me, I'm never in the moment in the studio. I'm always thinking about, oh, I messed up that. I'm going to have to go back and fix that, or I wonder if I should stop and start the track again because I just didn't feel like it was shaky, and that kind of stuff. When you're in the studio, so you're under the microscope. But live, it's like you just powered out there, and even when you record, well, when we record live and I play it back, the flaws are what makes the song. When I go for something that I wasn't planning on going for, or maybe if I made a mistake and had to find the note, ends up becoming something that's cool. So, it's all a part of the adventure, if you want to say it that way.
Definitely, and it's funny too. You almost have to like practice stage presence or crowd interaction as much as you have to practice the overall song too, or is that just something that you develop as you play
No,
more and
I've
more?
always I've always just got in front of people and did what I did. Here's the secret though. I don't talk about this too much, and I want to believe that most musicians do this. But before I started even playing bass, when I was a teenager and younger, I loved bass so much that I would grab a broom or a shovel or anything I could find and stand in front of the mirror, rock out,
Hell yeah.
and when you do that long enough, you find the cool moves and you throw away the bad moves, and hopefully, you got some kind of vibe going. And the other thing also is when, you uh, as a musician that is videoed, and I've seen myself probably more than anybody else has, and more than I want to. I can see all my flaws, the quirkiness, the weird ways that I am, and I can hone in on them, and maybe not do certain things that don't look cool, or deemed to me as not cool.
Yeah.
So it can. Sad thing about it is, you get up, you sing, you have a lot of fun, you play bass, you have a good time. Then all of a sudden, people think it's something special, and all of a sudden they're starting to talk about you and talk to you and tell you things, and all of a sudden you become aware that, oh, I'm doing something here, and then all of a sudden you have to fight to figure out where you can take that. It's like, should I think about this, or should I just do what I do and not worry about it? Will this change the way I approach things now? And all of a sudden you're in a video, and all of a sudden you see that quirkiness, and all of a sudden you're thinking everybody sees that. Oh my God, I look stupid, and then you don't realize that nobody notices, and it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier until I don't know how people deal with it sometimes. I've had to just get to the point where I just don't care anymore. I
Yeah.
said, this is me, and if you're an insecure person, if you've got your issues, it takes time. It's a big deal, especially when somebody says something negative. It's like, oh yeah, his nose is too big, or oh, he's getting this or that, or gaining weight, or he's too skinny or something. All of a sudden that's in your mind, and I don't care what people say. Oh, just ignore it. Don't pay attention to it. That's fucking ridiculous. Let that happen to you, and then tell me how quick you can get it out of your mind. It's like people don't understand how sensitive we are. And the other thing, and the last thing I'll say is, to me, a musician is just another person in the neighborhood who can play an instrument. On Sundays, they get up and go down to the town square and play their fiddle. The neighborhood comes out and dances, and we have a picnic, and everybody goes home. That's about what it is, And if we think we're anything more than that, then we're fooling ourselves, and we will be disappointed because we're not ever going to achieve what we want to achieve, thinking that there is a reward at the end of the rainbow. There is none. This is just a part of your life. Do what you do, have a good time doing it. And one day you're going to die and everybody's going to forget.
Yeah.
But if you're having a good time and you're in the moment, lives will change, people will change, and good things will happen. It's like it's easy. Just go do it.
Absolutely. I've always said that whether you are a musician or just a lover of music, going into anything music related with any expectations is already the worst mistake you can make.
Exactly. It really is.
Yeah.
The only expectations is to become bigger. I mean, is to become better at what you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And hopefully somebody comes along and tells you some every now and then, oh, you've improved. That's what you want to hear. Even the new King's X record, I don't want to hear somebody say, oh, man, Gretchen, just doesn't add up to it, and I go, oh, don't tell me that. Just tell me this was better. Or don't tell me anything, please, just spare me.
And it's funny too that you mentioned that you write in that you like to write in isolation. Isolation and solitude is such a great field for creativity. But again, going back to writing bass parts, because both singing and playing bass, whether it would be Sting or Peter Steele or Lemmy, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. We talked about melody, but when it comes to tracking the bass parts, having an emphasis on both rhythm and melody, do you prefer if you have guitar riffs or drum patterns already present before you lay down your bass parts, or have you ever had a whole pattern that the band can kind of write according to?
Yeah, I always put the bass down when I write a song. It's the last thing I put down before I put vocals on. It's always the last thing. For some reason, when I make up a bass line, it goes nowhere. And I can't hear different, I'm not inspired. I'm just playing a riff. And playing a riff is a lot of fun when you got a drummer with you and you're doing it for 20 minutes and you're fucking getting into it. But when you're sitting there by yourself going, dun, 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 what do you do with that? And if I laid that down and then tried to put a guitar part on top of it, I wouldn't find anything creative on guitar. Because it just doesn't inspire me. So I go the opposite. It's drums. Then I grab my guitar, and I don't consider myself a real guitar player. I make up a lot of guitar chords and a lot of different guitar stuff. And so I start messing around with the guitar, and sometimes I'm just aiming at things or playing chords in positions that you wouldn't. And all of a sudden I'll stumble across some crazy stuff. And I'll start putting it down. And then after I get done with that, then the bass comes along. And the bass is always fun. It's a challenge to, okay, what are you going to put under all this? And then after that, like I said, can you sing over top of this? And if I can come up with something that I think works, then I go, well, now you got to sing it and play it. But that's never stopped me. I will make something up. I don't care what it is. I'll make it up no matter how crazy it is and try to sing on top of it. I'm always up for the challenge.
As you good. Challenges are always good. And I've noticed that too, because when you compare, I've always said that every King's X album, I don't consider Three Sides of One to be a continuation of 15, which, and I don't consider,
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't consider the self-titled to be, a continuation of Faith, Hope, Love. I've always said that every album is just a continuation of the evolution of King's X.
Yeah, good.
But
I like that.
Do you think, though, that maybe, whether it would be the lyrical content or even the melody that's incorporated in there, do you think that art, because I've always said that art is life and it grows and develops as well, do you think that maybe any song that you've written can also develop over time as you evolve as an artist, or do you think that every album should be just a snapshot of who you were at that particular time?
It is a snapshot. And I think the biggest problem is we keep trying to replay that snapshot or recreate that snapshot. And you can't recreate it, even though we keep trying. And so you go out and you sing these songs over and over and over again to the point where they don't matter anymore. They don't mean anything to you. And that's sad, even though you get in front of a crowd and that person might not have never heard Over My Head their whole 30 years of their life, whatever, and they hear it live and they go home going, yes, that's okay. it's just there just needs to be an understanding that you can't always do those old songs with the heart that you did when you first did them. And especially when your philosophy and your beliefs have changed, or you're just older and you're not going to say she was only 12 years old and I shouldn't have done it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've seen rock bands who, I remember somebody told me she's only 17 and they said, but she was really 16 or something. And I'm going, wow, I mean, I'm not going to write a song like that, you know? And so, you know, because you're going to have to play it when you're 40.
Right?
You know, it's just this thought that goes into it. You know, nowadays when I sing about something, I go, "Are you gonna? Can you stand behind this the next 50 years? Are you gonna still feel the same way?" And all of a sudden, I go, "No. As long as I've lived, I'm not gonna feel the same way. Every year, I've got a new take on things, on everything, actually." And so, of course, you know, people will penalize me and say, "Well, didn't you say that on the first record and that on the second record?" And I'm going, "That ain't me no more.
Yeah,
I probably don't believe in any of that shit." You know, so you know, I don't know. That's the good thing about just growing and learning and the adventure of it.
definitely. And the final question I
I don't
wanted
know where I'm going with this.
to you answered it
Go ahead.
perfectly, and you led me perfectly into the
Good,
final
good.
question. I saved the hardest question for last. Are
Okay.
you ready?
Uh-oh.
How do you know when a song is done?
Hmm. I don't know. You know, I don't think it's ever done because there's not a song. Well, put it this way: you can say the song is finished. It's like a painting. It's like, okay, we could throw more paint on here and we could touch it up a little bit more and do something over here and there, but I think we've had enough. You know, I don't know anything else I can do to make this any more, you know, better in my mind. Um, I guess that's how you know it's done. Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe. I'd imagine, though, you're not that same person anymore. If you were to listen to your earlier work, there's probably stuff you would want to go back and add or take away or something, right?
There's things, well, the biggest thing I'd like to do is go back and remix them. Other than that, I think I would leave them just the way they are. You know, I mean, it was what it was and it was who we were. Um, I wouldn't want to change anything. I just like to remix it all.
That's,
Just
yeah.
make the first three records sound, the first four records sound like Dog Me.
Oh, God, I think they sound great, man. I mean,
You know, they do. They do. They sound, for me, they sound dated now because, you know, it was the 80s. And it's hard to listen to a lot of stuff out of the 80s because the snares were so thin and the kick drums are fake. And it was just, everything was buried in reverb and, you know, and all that stuff. So it's hard to listen to that stuff. But, you know, that was the thing about King's X back in the day is, you know, we worked on those records really, really hard. And we're proud of the way they sounded. But I do, when you went to see us live do those same songs, we were completely the opposite live. We were pure raw. It was in your face. And that's the thing. I just had wished that we could have got a little bit more of that organic quality in those first four records. A little bit more.
the way I describe King's X is all organic rock and roll. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
I ain't gonna argue with you then.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and great to
You're
talk with
welcome.
you again. Is there just anything else with King's X that you would like to promote for the release of Three Sides of One?
No, it's just be out in a few days, and we're excited. Can't wait for people to hear it.
I can't
Check
wait.
out the videos
Yeah,
and the singles
yeah,
and all as well.
I can't
May
wait
the
for
groove
people.
be with you.
I can't wait for people to hear this as well. Definitely worth the
Awesome.
wait. Thank you so much, everybody. Doug of King's X, Three Sides of One. Be sure to pick it up. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.